Welcome back. One of the top 10 pet poisons reported by the ASPCA Pet Poison Control Center is rodenticide exposure. Depending on the type, mouse and rat baits can cause bleeding, kidney failure, seizures, or even death to your dog or cat. Obviously, you want to keep mouse and rat poisons well out of reach of pets, and some of the poisons come with a plastic bait station. Do you know what a bait station is? A bait station's not a trap. It's a device that holds bait, which is poison, and the purpose is that it's supposed to provide easy access for the rat or rodent or squirrel or whatever you're trying to poison, but protect children and pets from accessing the bait. But pets, especially dogs, can easily chew through the bait station and get to the poison. I'm going to tell you a little story of our experience with pesticide exposure with one of our dogs, Susie. Our beloved wild girl, Susie, got into a bait station out on one of our walks. And this bait station was set out by the city to prevent squirrels from damaging a nearby levee. These particular bait stations were made of PVC piping and they were T-shaped. Have you ever seen these? It's actually a reverse T-shape. So picture this. You have the center vertical pipe sticking up into the air. That's where you insert the poison, which is supposed to fall to the bottom, where it's connected to the center of the horizontal pipe lying on the ground, which opens at both ends. So the rodent has 2 points of entry and exit. And you don't expect to find dead rodents in these bait stations because the way it works is the animal enters the station, eats some bait, leaves the station, and usually goes back to its nest or out somewhere else where it dies a day or two later. And it's a horrible death for the animal, I should add. Don't think for a second this is a painless way for an animal to die. Now, this particular poison that Susie got into, we found out consisted of oats, like breakfast oats, saturated with a cobalt blue substance. And Susie shoved her snout into the dispenser before we knew what happened and what it was. Not sure how much she consumed, but she definitely got a few licks in. Anyway, you know you got to act quickly if you think your pet just ingested poison. You can't wait for symptoms before you act. So we rushed Susie to our vet. We were at the vet's office within 20 minutes of this event. And the vet immediately induced vomiting and placed Susie on a month of vitamin K therapy. And luckily, she was fine. This particular poison was an anticoagulant rodenticide, which prevents the animal to clot his own blood, which eventually leads to internal bleeding. And like I said, it's a horrible way to die. So what vitamin K does, it's supposed to reverse the anticoagulant effect of the poison. So Susie was fine, but imagine if we didn't see this happen, and imagine what these poisons do to our wildlife. We have coyotes all around us here where we live. We see them all the time in this area. So I'm positive coyotes access this poison in the same way our Susie did. Bait stations are everywhere, and these rodenticides are getting into the environment, getting into our families and our pets and kids in ways we don't even know about, and with widespread exposure rate. And these pesticides, poisons, are really ubiquitous, even if you're not using them yourself around or in your own home. There are bait products around restaurants and grocery stores and outdoor areas like parks and near and around levees. And going back to my point about directly harming our wildlife, so the way it usually works, the rodents first get to the poisons, okay? And these guys are preyed upon by the upper-level predators, foxes, coyotes, eagles, hawks, bobcats. And these animals will ingest the toxins when they capture and eat the poison rodents. And then these animals get very sick and experience a painful, slow death. So you can see how it becomes very widespread in the food chain. And people don't think about that. They don't think about the widespread impact it has on our wildlife because people usually just want to get rid of the pests and rodents around them. But remember, it's particularly harmful to our wildlife, the very animals and species whose job it is to keep the rodent population down. Our dogs and cats are getting into these pesticides. And as I mentioned at the top of the segment, rodenticides are in the top 10 toxins that harm our pets. So if you think your cat or dog has been exposed to a rodenticide, you should seek treatment with your veterinarian immediately or call the Pet Poison Helpline or the Animal Poison Control Center. Put these numbers in your phone. Pet Poison Helpline or the ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center. Also on the show, we've talked about the risks that pesticides pose to our dogs and cats with veterinarian Robert Reed and what precautions you should take when your home or surroundings is treated to address pest problems. You could check that interview out or the one with Jonathan Evans if you want to learn more about pesticides and wildlife by going to our podcast, animalstodayradio.com, and there's a search box on the top right upper corner, and type in pesticides. And you can access both of these interviews on animalstodayradio.com. You know, we live in a suburban house in the desert and started noticing mouse or rat droppings in our garage. So we elected to get a few of those no-kill traps. They're humane, no poison, no kill, no crushing, no harming the animal. And we used peanut butter as bait. And it works. Rat goes in, little cage door closes, and you check several hours later. Peter actually caught a few rodents in about 2 weeks. Each one he humanely released, of course, just far enough away in a rodent safe and happy place. And it's been over a year since that happened, and we haven't seen any more signs of rodents so far. And of course, we're very happy we can do this without the traps which can injure or kill the rodent, and without using or having poisons around the house. And finally, one of the 10 most common pet toxins, insecticide exposure. Insecticides are designed to kill insects, and they are used everywhere, your home, gardens, parks, and you know how easy it would be for your dog to inhale or ingest insecticide debris left on some grass or on a treated plant. Do you have a pest control service that comes to your home or your apartment to spray? Or maybe your HOA schedules that and they spray common areas in your community? The exterminator might tell you that what they use is harmless to pets. Don't believe them. Pets poisoned from insecticides are on this top 10 pet poison list. So you know pets are getting into these insecticides, or the insecticides are getting on the dog's paws or bodies, and perhaps they're grooming themselves in many ways to be poisoned. One resource is offering good advice. Never apply outdoor insecticides while your pet, any toys, or feeding bowls are on the lawn. Avoid pellet pesticides that can be mistaken for food. Don't mix insecticides with organic fertilizer. Most dogs like the taste of organic fertilizers. When storing insecticides, make sure they are out of reach and locked up so that children and animals cannot access them. And then there are these spot-on flea and tick treatments meant for your dog. Is that safe? A friend of mine's dog died from a flea and tick product application. So personally, I would never use one on my dog. There's so many non-toxic ways to treat your pet from ticks and fleas. Or I would just ask your trusted veterinarian what he recommends if the time comes you feel your dog needs flea treatment. And by the way, there's a nasty chemical called Permethrin, which is often used in these flea and tick treatments for dogs. Cats are highly susceptible to Permethrin poisoning, even through skin contact. So if you have a cat and a dog in the same household, definitely look for safer alternatives for your home. So Permethrin, remember that name, highly toxic to cats. Permethrin is found in some dog flea and tick treatments, some dog shampoos, fly sprays, and ant powder. Exposure to even small quantities of concentrated permethrin can cause severe and fatal poisoning in cats. It's important to keep any potential danger and toxins out of our pet's reach. If you think your pet may have ingested a potentially poisonous substance, seek immediate veterinary treatment or call the ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center or Pet Poison Helpline. I'll tell you the numbers, but obviously you can easily look them up online. ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center, 888-426-4435. Pet Poison Helpline, 855-764-7661. Put these numbers in your phone. Tape it to your refrigerator. Do people do that anymore? Tape it to the refrigerator? Leave the numbers for your pet sitter. That's a good idea. Leave the numbers for your pet sitter. Give them to your friends with pets.